Okay, so it looks like we're recording and everything's fine on the recording. Welcome to Math 219. That is my sections of Math 219. I'm Clark Bray. I'm teaching sections 1, 2, and 3 of the course this semester. Okay, so I have some comments to make about how the course is organized and a couple of bits of advice to give about how to do well in the course. And I think it makes more sense to communicate these ideas to y'all in a recording rather than in class because we have so very little of class. And this isn't really, math material, so it seems like this is the more appropriate choice. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to dive in real quick. If you think you might possibly want to major in math, come talk to me. It's no big deal. I just want to ask a few questions to make sure that you're taking the right courses and you've considered various options, and no big deal. It'll only take a few minutes, but I think it'd be a good idea. Okay. All right. So now moving along, I want to draw your attention to the class website. Let's see here. I may have already sent you this link in an email as of the time that you're listening to this recording. I'm not sure. But anyway, the class website is located here. And I think it's a really good idea to have this shortcutted or bookmarked or favorited or whatever they call it in the operating system that your computer works on. Have it handy, however you might prefer to do that, because there's a lot of very important information there. There's information there that will be updated as we go through the course, and so you do need to have ready access, convenient access to that website on a regular basis. Okay. All right. Now, that said, there's also a shared course website, and that is linked from the site that I just pointed you to. Okay. So I am going to go through some of the contents of these sites, but the most important thing is for me to let y'all know that you're responsible to read through all of that information on both of the sites and click around, familiarize yourself with what else is there, and make sure that you get the sort of the lay of the land on those web pages. So here it is. This is the course website. In fact, let's see here. Let me make this a little bit larger. There we go. That'll be easier to see. So this is for my sections, you'll notice, of the website. And I'm going to talk through a few specific things on here. So the very first thing, let's go back to my outline here and make sure I stay in order. First thing we're going to do is talk about the content syllabus. Okay, now the content syllabus is not on my section website. It is on the course website, and you see here there's a link to the course website. Click right there. The content syllabus is on the course website because it applies course-wide. So here it is. You'll notice top left link here in this lower section of the page. Click there on content syllabus, and here it is. I'll make this a little bit larger as well. You'll see that this lists the course and the textbook that we're using, some comments about how this document is structured, a list of all the prerequisites. This is very important. Make sure that you are proficient with all of the prerequisite topics and everything in the prerequisite trail. We will be assuming that you're good with all that material throughout this course. And then we also have down in the body, as it were, of this document, a list of all the sections that we're going to be covering. Here's the very first section in the book, et cetera, section number and title, and which exercises are assigned for homework when we finish covering that section, and I'll say a few more words about that in a few minutes. And then there's these other two columns over here, included material and excluded material. So first, the included material. There are some topics that need to be in this course, and yeah, we really need to cover, but that for whatever reason are not in the book. So those topics will be covered in the lectures. And so, for example, the second derivative chain rule. This is something that you need to know, and we're going to cover it in the lectures, but it's not in the book. Okay. Likewise, a few other things down the course. Now, the excluded material. These are things that are in the book, but are a little bit too much, perhaps, or stuff that we don't have quite enough time for, that kind of stuff. Point being that you're not responsible for it. So, for example, this business here about hyperspherical coordinates, we just don't have time to talk about that, and so you're welcome to ignore that. So very important to have this document as we go through the course, up and easily accessible. And so, for example, when we cover, let's say, section 2.5, right? As we are covering section 2.5, very useful for you to realize that you don't need to look at this business right here. You're not responsible for it. It's not part of the course. And also very useful for you to realize that you cannot just rely on the book, at least as it comes to this topic here. That is, again, included, but not in the book. Okay, so I hope that all makes sense. This documents everything that we're going to be doing in the entire course in terms of content. Okay. All righty, so that's the content syllabus. Now let's see, going back to here. Let's see here. Let me erase that. Ooh, there we go. And now we'll talk about the class schedule. So the class schedule is found on our sections website. So we have here, you'll see here, sections 1, 2, and 3. If you're enrolled in one of those sections, then this applies to you as in terms of the fact that that's one of my sections. Okay, so the class schedule, here it is. And again, real high up on the list here, class schedule. This will get updated several times a week. After every class meeting, this will be updated. You'll notice we have here a list of all of the class meeting dates, times depending on which section you're enrolled in, of course. And a representation of where I hope to have gotten through in the lecture notes by that date. So I'm hoping, and this is optimistic, but I'm hoping that on the first day of class we'll get into the first 9 pages of lecture notes. May or may not happen. I'm betting probably not. I have a habit of front-loading my target schedule. It helps keep me moving at the fast pace that's essential in order to be able to get through all the material of this course. This course is chock full of material. Okay. All right. Now, what we will actually finish on that day, well, it's going to be different in every section. Section 1 and Section 2 and Section 3 will all get done with different things because I'll be moving at slightly different paces. There will be different questions from students, etc. So I'll be documenting the actual progress as we move along. And then furthermore, now again, all for this given class meeting, the first class meeting arbitrarily, I will document over here which sections of the book we actually finish on that day. And by being entered into this cell of this spreadsheet, that means that all of the assigned exercises for that section are part of this homework set. Anything that's listed in this cell, anything that's listed in this cell. That homework number 1, you'll see we won't really know exactly what's in homework number 1 until we get through with that second cell. In other words, not until Wednesday. But at the end of Wednesday, when this cell here is entered, that defines what homework 1 is, and homework 1 is due on Sunday, September 3rd. You'll notice that's the Sunday following. Okay, most of the assignments, you'll notice, are due on Sundays. A few exceptions that are due on Fridays. We'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so reminder, which exercises are assigned? Well, whatever sections we finish, you got to go back to the course website, to the content syllabus, and see which exercises are listed. So for example, now for weird reasons that I'll talk about later, probably in class actually, we're going to start with section 1.6, and so when we finish 1.6, which I'm very optimistic we will, these are the assigned exercises that are part of homework 1. Okay. All right, and of course then, on Wednesday we might finish 1.1, we might finish 1.2, and then these exercises would be assigned, whatever gets entered onto the class schedule. Okay, now real quick, AHP stands for Additional Homework Problems. Most of the exercises that are assigned, such as these here, refer to exercises in the book, specifically in this section of the book. AHP refers to a document that I have on the course website. Additional homework problems that I've written in order to make the assignment more complete. I felt like there were certain shortcomings in the exercises that were assigned by the book, and this is filling in gaps as I perceive them. Okay, so let me show you where that is. The AHP document is here on the course website, Course Materials, and you'll see right here, Math 219 AHP. You can click on that and download it, and there you go. Okay. All right. While we're here, let me point out, you may notice that my section website has kind of a yellowish, manila maybe, sort of a background color, while the course website has a gray background. That's just an attempt to help keep it from being kind of confusing. So in particular, you'll notice that as much as I can, like this, various different documents here that are on the section website, I am using the same background color, and that's just supposed to make it just a little bit easier for you to keep track. Okay, it's a little bit easier for me to keep track as well. All right. Okay, so let's see, back to the document here. So let's see here. Let's talk about class grades. So this is an important thing. This is an important thing, of course. And there's a couple of things to see about class grades. The most important thing to notice is that everything's going to be done on the 4-point scale. So I'm not going to be averaging raw scores or assigning doing any course computations, grade computations on the 100-point scale or with raw scores for a variety of reasons that makes things much more complicated. So every exam that we have in this course is going to be curved individually, and thus putting it onto the 4-point scale. And at the end of the semester, we're just going to take literally an average. We're going to take a weighted average on the 4-point scale. And the average of all those numbers on the 4-point scale will give you a number on the 4-point scale, and that'll determine your course grade. Let me show you some specifics. So again, going in here into the web page, let me go to the course website. You'll notice, again, very high up on the list, right here, course grades. So everything's going to be on the 4-point scale. On any given exam, you'll convert the raw score onto the 4-point scale with a curve that I'm going to give to you. That's how I'm going to be doing it in my sections. The other instructor may do it differently, probably not. But anyway, various graded items you'll have, and all of the midterm exams, for example, together, those will all add up to 60% of the grade weight. For the final exam is 30%. There are some other graded items. Instructors will make their own choices about how to distribute this 10% of the weight. In my class, it'll be on the basis of homework and attendance. So again, with everything averaged, you will end up with a weighted average for the course. And that weighted average determines your course grade by way of this table. So for example, let's suppose you end up with let's say a 3.8. Let's just say. You'll see a 3.8 here, but notice that as a open endpoint. There's a 3.8 here. That is a closed endpoint. So 3.8 is part of this interval. And if you end up with a 3.8, then you get an A in the course. If you end up with a 3.4, well, 3.4, 3.4 is in this interval. That's a B+. Okay, so just in case you're wondering where these numbers all came from, this 3.15 that you'll notice, that's the sort of the cutoff between B and B+. The reason I chose 3.15 is because the standard B is 3.0, the standard B+ is 3.3, and 3.15 is halfway in between, exactly halfway in between those numbers. Okay. All right, so most of these cutoffs are determined in that way. Some slight deviations at the end. You'll notice that you would have expected this to be 3.85. I make it 3.8. Likewise, you might have expected this to be a different number. At the extremes, as it turns out, there are some weird statistical phenomena with how numbers from distributions average, and it just makes more sense to pinch in the cutoffs just a little bit at the extremes. And anyway, that's what's going on there. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, so that's how grades work. Now, of course, there is some ambiguity here. This doesn't say how much each individual midterm exam counts. It doesn't indicate what these other items are. That we will find on the on the section website, or what I sometimes call the class website. So again, here we go. Link, class grades. And here are all of those specifics. So again, I will have curves for each individual exam. And they are on this website. They're in the exam curves section. While we're at it, I'll go ahead and point to that. Exam curves. They're blank right now, but when we have finished an exam, when the grading is done, these will be filled in. And so, for example, if you end up getting an 88 on the exam, on the first exam, then whatever number is in this spot will be your grade on that exam on the 4-point scale. Okay. All right. So here are the specifics of how homework grades are computed. Notice I expect that students will be thorough and careful with the homework, and students should have very strong homework averages. You are welcome and encouraged to work in groups, to trade ideas, to help each other, get help from other resources. Obviously, your work has to be your own, but someone can help you understand the solution to the problem as much as you like. And then, of course, you just have to write your solution based off of your own understanding. So no copying, of course. So anyway, with the idea that you can get all the help you want, I expect high numbers. And so basically the idea is that 65% or lower is 0.0 on the 4-point scale. So in other words, that's kind of a failing grade. Obviously 100% is maximum possible. And so that's going to be 4.0. So that's an A. And then we interpolate linearly between those two reference points. Okay. Likewise, notice attendance counts as part of the grade for this course. Not very much, but a little bit, and surprisingly impactful, especially if you're near one of the cutoffs. As it turns out, this can make the difference between a B+ and an A-, etc. So very important. Now again, attendance is something that I expect all students can do very well. All you have to do is come to class, right? Easy money. Think of it that way. Now, of course, there is such a thing as an excused absence. Discussion of that elsewhere on the website. You'll read about that on your own. But anyway, all the specifics of how the attendance grade is computed right here in this paragraph. So then these are the specific weights. Each midterm exam counts for 20%, adding up to the 60 required by the course policy. Final exam 30, of course, as noted on the exam on the course page. And then here's how I break up the 10% at my individual discretion. Homework is 7% and attendance is 3%. Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I hope that all makes sense. Now, if you have any questions about how this course grade formula works, just come talk to me. I'll be very happy to elaborate, give you some examples, help you make sense out of it. Please don't just allow yourself to be confused or unclear as to how this formula works. This is important, and I need to make sure all students understand. So just come talk to me. I'll be very happy to make it make sense however we messed. Okay. All right. So let's see. Back to our outline here, and let's see. Next thing I want to talk about the YouTube recordings. So y'all are watching this recording on YouTube. I will also, in this same playlist where you found this recording, I will be putting recordings of, hopefully, presumably, technology permitting, all of our class meetings this semester also on this same playlist here on YouTube. And I strongly encourage you to make heavy use of these recordings. Now, one use that a student could make of these recordings is to use it as a sort of a replacement if they miss a lecture, hopefully and presumably for an excused reason. But that's really not the most important use. I think that the most important use of these recordings is as a study tool. I don't really expect that students will understand every single thing that I say as I say it in class. Class moves really fast, and it's just not really realistic. I certainly didn't. When I was in college, I didn't understand every single thing that my instructors said as they said it. So one of the main ideas, arguably the main purpose of the recordings, is for you to go back and listen to the recording after you've already attended the lecture. And listen to key moments that you had a little trouble with during lecture. You make a note, you go back after class is over, you listen to that part of the recording again, try to make sense out of it. I think this is a really powerful learning tool. I sure wish this existed when I was in college. Obviously it didn't. But anyway, that's the idea there. So back to the web page, and again, so here's my section site, and you'll notice near the bottom here, YouTube recordings, and you just click here. This takes you to my YouTube channel, and click on playlists. I organize everything by playlists. There is no 2023 fall playlist right now, because this recording I'm making right now will be the first such recording when I get around to uploading it, which I can't do till after I'm done making it. So, but anyway, very soon there will be such a recording here. And just for it to have something to refer to, I'm going to click on my recent summer playlist, and you'll see right here the very first recording, course organization and advice. And that's what it's going to look like when I get this uploaded to this semester's soon-to-be-created list. Okay, then you'll also notice that all of the lectures, all the individual class meeting lectures, also recorded and available right here for you to click on and watch at your leisure. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about less a matter of logistics and more a matter of course philosophy So what are we doing in this class? What's this class about? Right? And there are, in my opinion, some very significant misunderstandings among math students about what math really is, and what it means to learn math, and what it means to understand something, and what it means to do well in a class, that kind of thing. So very importantly, commonly underappreciated, this course certainly, and I think all good math classes, are about ideas and reasoning. In fact, I think it's probably pretty safe to say that even outside of math in other fields, and I recognize, of course, different academic fields are very different from each other, and I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think that many, if not most, academic fields are about ideas and reasoning of some form appropriate to the field. So notice, by contrast, what this course is not about. This course is not about answers. It's not about just knowing what the answer is to a given question. I'm much less interested in whether you have the right answer than whether you had good reasoning, right? And whether you understand the ideas that went into that reasoning. That's what we're really looking for. It's not about the answer at the bottom of the page. It's not about whether you memorized a formula that's true, right? Much more interested in if you understand why the formula is true. What does the formula mean? What does it look like? How does it manifest physically? That sort of thing. Okay, so very, very important point. Make sure you're crisply clear on this. By the way, I am aware of the fact that many high schools don't teach this way. And so this might be a new point of view, perhaps, for many students. And I'm going to throw myself into that bunch. When I got out of high school, there was a very strong, with exceptions, but there was a very strong tendency toward, hey, if you got the right answer, then you got it, and that's all good. It doesn't really matter how you got there. And if you know the formula, you don't have to know what the formula means, but if you know the formula, then that was okay. And so again, a lot of high schools were taught that way. High school math classes are taught that way. So if that sounds familiar, if that is how your high school course was taught, then you need to be prepared for making a sort of a philosophical transition. To be able to do well in Math 219, you're going to have to reorient your thinking around understanding ideas. What do these things mean? What do they look like? How do they manifest? How do they relate to each other? How do I draw conclusions? What kind of thinking can I do? How do these ideas fit together to allow me to solve a problem? Reasoning with ideas. These are the things that you need to orient your thinking around. Okay. All right. So you're going to notice this very heavily in the lectures. I'm going to be talking a lot about ideas, perhaps more than you're accustomed to. I don't know. I hope not, but I imagine possibly. You're also going to notice that the exams are not going to be, mechanical type things. The exams are going to require you to do some creative thinking. You're going to have to understand the ideas, have familiarity with how to use the ideas to be able to solve the problems that are on the exams. It's not just going to be regurgitation. Okay. All right, so as such, you should focus on this point of view in every aspect of this course. As you learn the material, as you're working on homework assignments, and very importantly, as you write solutions on the exam, keep in mind that what we are interested in is ideas and reasoning. And in particular, I'll point out that this is where points come from on the exams, right? So points come from our ability to conclude from what you've written whether your reasoning is valid, whether your reasoning is complete, whether you've thought through the solution to the problem clearly. Now, this is a subtle one, but again, a lot of students focus on the answer. Again, we're more interested in the reasoning. And what I mean by clarity of thought is if there is a better solution, well, clear thinking would go to the better solution, not the slow, tedious, brute force solution, right? So if there's a clever way to make use of an idea, important idea from the course, that turns what seems to be a hard problem into just a few lines of maybe a little bit of algebra, but mostly a convenient solution using a big idea. That's a much better solution than some sort of brute force, mechanical, tedious solution that even though it gets to the same answer. Right, now again, this may sound like a shocking idea, but again, clarity of thought, right? So the point is, it's about the ideas and the reasoning. And whether you get to the right answer, well, the answer is not what this course is about. It's just not the point. That's not what we're here for, right? So a bad solution that gets to the right answer, just not as good as a clever and powerful solution that gets to that same right answer. Okay, so that's, again, a new idea for a lot of students. Make sure to digest that point. Okay, and then lastly, clarity of written communication. So we have to be able to make sense out of what you wrote. And this is a surprisingly difficult thing to do, to take sophisticated mathematical ideas, manipulate them in sophisticated ways, and communicate that reasoning in words and in algebra. So this takes practice. This is hard. Writing about math is hard. So give yourself the practice to allow you to do this. One of the best ways to do this is on the homework exercises. Make sure when you're doing homework exercises, don't try to streamline your writing to where you use as little pencil lead as possible. That's not the right point of view, right? This is an opportunity for students to practice this challenging skill of writing about math and communicating effectively in writing about math. Again, when we're grading, we have to grade on the basis of what's written. So you need to make sure that what you write is an accurate representation of what you were thinking. And again, harder than you might think. It's a tricky talent. It's a skill that requires some practice. Okay. All right. So this is a large part of the sort of the underlying philosophy of the course. This is arguably the most important thing in this whole recording right here. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about, some advice, how to do well in this class. You'll notice, in fact, that I have let's see here, on the course website, there is an entire section of the course website called How to Do Well in This Course. Several pages of different things. The first thing I want to talk about is the course design and strategy. A lot of classes set up in very different ways from this class, and the idea is that lectures are set up so that between the time that you enter the classroom and the time that you leave the classroom 50 minutes later, that you will have learned as much as possible in that 50 minutes. And that's close to what we're doing in this class, but it's really not quite the same. What I'm doing in this class is I'm designing everything in this course so that students have the maximum opportunity to learn as much as possible overall. And the harsh reality is there's just too much material to be covered in this class for it to all be learned by students during class meetings. There is just not enough time in the class meetings. There's too much to learn. It's a tremendous amount of stuff, and it takes time to actually digest those ideas. So keep in mind then that the way I have these lectures set up, on the one hand, I'm setting up these lectures expecting and assuming that after class is over, whether that day or maybe a day or two later, I understand schedules are complicated, but sometime shortly after the lecture, that students will spend more time, not just working homework problems, right? Not preparing for tomorrow's exam or something like that, but just day in and day out learning, just studying and learning the material. So when I'm talking in class, giving the lecture in class, I'm doing two things. I'm hoping that you'll learn to some extent the material as I'm talking, but I'm also trying to give you resources so that when you are studying later, that you can go back and listen to the things that I'm saying in class a second time, third time, fourth time, possibly, as needed. And that you can do a lot of learning outside of class, as well as what you hopefully also learned somewhat of in class. So let's see here. There we go. So, in fact, I think most of the learning happens outside of the classroom, which is, again, a little bit counterintuitive, a little bit surprising. But I think it's the only way to really make any sense out of this course. There's just too much material otherwise to be able to get it all done. Okay. All right. So in general, so this is sort of a special case of the general point, is that everything in this class is designed on the assumption that students are going to, well, for one thing, prepare for class meetings before coming to class. Scope out what's in the book. Read through in the lecture notes, not for full understanding, obviously, but just try to have some idea of what's going to happen in class. That will allow you to get more benefit out of the lecture in class. And then again, after class, make full use of the available resources. Watch the recording, maybe not the whole thing, but parts that you found confusing during the lecture. Watch that part of the recording. Hit the pause button. Give yourself time to chew on it and think about it. Digest. Maybe even identify what it is that is the shortcoming in your mind that's making it hard to understand. Go back and look at that prerequisite concept. Digest that prerequisite concept a little bit better. Remind yourself of the definitions, whatever. And then hit the play button and listen to that again. And this sort of, back and forth and, listening to it over and over again, giving yourself the opportunity to do a little bit of sneak peeks, back to, things that you were previously confused about. And then watching the recording again, this can make a tremendous difference. This is a very, very powerful learning tool, and I hope you all will all make use of it. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I want to talk about the learning expectations in this course. This is a math department statement right here for block calculus courses, including this one. These are the things that we want you to understand, broadly speaking. Notice this is mostly ideas to be understood, right? This isn't, mostly anyway, just memorizing formulas or, rehearsing algorithms. These are all points of comprehension, right? So ideas and reasoning. And again, that's what this course is really about. Okay, so there are some specifics here, and there's a lot to be said about these, but most of this we just don't have time to talk through here. That's why I've got it written down. So please make sure to read all of this stuff. I think there's a lot of really good ideas in here. So in particular, I like this observation here about Wolfram Alpha. Wolfram Alpha has existed for quite a long time. I lose track of time these days, maybe 10 years. It's been a long time. And of course now there's all these new, Chat GPT and other, AI-ish type tools, and students can do surprisingly powerful things with those, right? But again, that's not really comprehension, and that's also free. So here's a dangerous idea. If your ability to perform multivariable calculus is reliant on your ability to use these computer tools, well, then what can you do that the company that you're hoping to get a job with can't already do with those same tools, right? So Wolfram Alpha, for example, I mean, it'll compute all sorts of integrals, right? Easy language. You don't have to know syntax or anything. And so if this is all you know how to do, well, they already have that, right? And it's much more reliable, it's cheaper, it's faster, right? So this is not giving you value that you can offer, right? So what you can offer that these AI tools cannot, I don't think they ever will. That's an opinion. But they certainly cannot now, is actual understanding, right? The AI tools don't actually understand anything. So the understanding of the ideas, the ability to reason on the basis of understanding of ideas, this is what you can offer. This is what makes you valuable to companies that may be interested in hiring you in the future, or graduate programs that may be interested in admitting you, whatever the case may be. Okay, again, a bunch more really interesting, I think really persuasive points in here, and I hope you'll give this a good read. I'm going to point out this page here, course resources. I think it's important to recognize that you are your own primary resource in learning in this course. So again, this is just another way to say that you need to set up a learning strategy. Take advantage of all the resources. Prepare before you come to class. Kind of already know roughly what's going to happen in class before you come. Watch the recordings after. These are things that you have to do yourself. I can't make you do them. Right? So you are the most important part of your learning in this class. I know it sounds cheesy to say, but it's really true in this case. I do like our textbook very much. It's a very nice book. There are certain things about it where I'll quibble. Most professors will. I think that'll be a good resource. I hope my class notes will be a good resource. And I think it's a good idea to read the appropriate parts of those before you come to class. And again, after class, I've already talked enough about that. You'll notice that I have myself listed third, right? So I want to help. But again, you have to do it. I'm just here to help to the extent that I can. Okay. Make sure to take advantage of the office hours, right? It doesn't cost anything. You just show up. Don't have to have an appointment or anything. You just show up to the office hours. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, I guess I should say real quick. I want to strongly encourage you all to work in groups. I learned a tremendous amount in my college days from classmates, studying in groups, trading ideas, creating dialogue, some form or another. I mean, exactly the nature of the dialogue doesn't matter. What I used to like to do is make a controversial statement and then watch my friends argue about it. And then I get to listen in on what they have to say, and some people agree with my statement, others disagreed with my statement, but the discussion, the dialogue that happened afterwards was where a lot of ideas were getting tossed around and connections made, and maybe some of those I already knew, but fairly regularly someone would say something that I had not previously thought of, and it's just a wonderful way to learn. Okay. All right, so again, lots to be said here. Oh, golly, I really do need to say some words about my past exams. I've taught Math 219 several times at this point, and every one of these is an old exam from past term. And then also the solutions are there as well, but the file names are too long to see that. But this right here, yeah, it doesn't actually give it to me, but I'll just click on it. This is an exam. This is a blank, and you can see there's question there, for example. And then I can click on the very next file here, and this is the solutions. And so you'll see here, that's the same exact question, and here is my solution to that problem. So I think this is a fantastic learning tool. I do strongly encourage that you do not go straight to the solutions. Don't deprive yourself of the learning benefits of struggling with a question. Give it a try on your own first. Right? And then if you get stuck, sure, refer to the solution. If you are done with the question and you want to see if you got it right, or see if you made any mistakes, whatever, again, go to the solution. But give it a try on your own first. Okay. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's see here. Let's go back to the outline. I think I've actually inadvertently covered a bunch of this. I believe I've covered all of this already. So prepare before class, come and pay attention in class, and then again review it all after class. Okay, now moving along. Couple of ideas that I hope you'll find useful. Maintain a list of questions. This was a very valuable tool for me. When there was something I didn't understand, I would write it down on a list. I had a running list. Now, this was a long time ago for me, and so I had to use a piece of paper. I'm sure y'all will have a much better tool for this, something on your phones or website or what have you. But one way or another, whatever means you find most convenient, I think it's really valuable to have a list of questions, and then you won't forget next time you're in office hours what you want to ask, right? Then, when you get your question answered, then you cross it off. And nice way to keep track. Okay, I've already said this one, but I'll just hit it again real quick. Make sure to use all of the course resources. Anything that you don't make use of, well, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So there's a lot of good resources. It may be that some of the resources you don't find particularly helpful for you, right? So maybe what the Academic Resource Center has to offer it doesn't really work for you very well. No problem, right? But it's always good to give these things a try. Okay, I've already talked about study groups, creating dialogue. I'm a big fan. And I've already talked about using homework as exam practice. Again, writing about math is a very difficult skill to master. And it takes practice, and the homework is a wonderful opportunity to give yourself that practice. So as you're writing up solutions to homework exercises, don't just try to get it done as quickly as possible. Take this as an opportunity for you to practice your writing skills. Try to write up beautiful solutions to the homework exercises, right? Show your work, explain your reasoning, of course, is a given, right? I mean, if you want us to be able to understand your reasoning, well, you're going to have to explain it to us. And obviously the algebra that you'll be doing, or whatever arguments that you're making, you have to show all of that algebra, all that other work, arithmetic even. We have to be able to see it if we want to know that you did it. Okay. All right, one other thing I'm going to say, I kind of skipped over this, and that's this business about timestamps. So I think this is a really powerful tool. I wish I'd thought of this idea on my own, but I didn't. A student came up with this idea some years ago, and I loved it immediately. So here's my lecture notes. This is what it's going to look like when you come to class. You're going to see all this writing here that I've got here. This is going to be up on the projector screen. And as class proceeds, we'll scroll down and we'll talk about, various different things. And let's suppose when we get down to this example, you get confused. And this is a confusing example. The claim is that this function is linear, but wait a minute. Is determinant linear? Really? And might not have remembered it that way from your linear algebra class. Well, in fact, it's not. Determinant is not linear. But you'll notice that that's, in fact, not what this example is saying. Anyway, we'll talk about this example in class. That's not the point. The point is, if you find a future discussion of this example to be confusing, then you're going to want to go back after class and listen to that discussion again. It would be nice to just be able to go right to it and to not have to kind of click around and try to, figure out where it was. So really simple little hack, nice little student hack here is look at the clock down here, the time that's recorded, that's indicated in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. That's just how my computer does it. And you see it says 4:39. So all you got to do is, maybe in red pen or whatever, you just write 4:39. Right? Maybe put a circle around it. And this is your note to yourself in your copy of the notes, that if you want to remind yourself of what the deal was with that, how did you hear my explanation of that again? Now you know exactly where to go in that recording. So that'll save you some clicking around. It'll make it much more convenient. And when things are more convenient, you're more likely to do them. So anyway, I think that's a lovely little hack. Very clever. Okay, so I think this may have covered all the logistics that we need to cover for this recording. Again, make sure to read the class website and also the shared course website. And again, you've got the link right there, and probably also in an email I'm about to send you. And I think we're done here. So y'all have a good, let's see here, week and a half remaining in the summer. And I look forward to seeing y'all on Monday, the whatever date that is. I want to say the 28th. Let's just check real quick. Let's see here. I will go back to my class website, schedule. Let's see. Yeah, Monday, August 28th. See you then.